Hello and welcome to the Novato City Council Candidates Debate, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County and Seroptimus International of Novato. I'm Judy Bensaka from the League of Women Voters. With me tonight are Brent Ainsworth of Novato Patch and Rob Rogers of the Marin Independent Journal, who will be asking the questions. And League member Marcia Hagan will be our timekeeper. The 6 candidates with us tonight are running for 3 seats on the Novato City Council. They are Jerome Gigliotti, Madeline Kellner, Eric Lucan, Jean McLamey, Leslie Peterson-Schwarz, and Eleanor Sluice. The 7th candidate, Manny Fernandez, is not with us tonight. The candidates will make opening statements of 2 minutes each, and will begin with Jerome Gigliotti.
I'm Jerome Gigliotti, and I've been a Novato resident since 1971. I see that we have 3 major areas of concern in Novato. First is employment, whereby the contractors and the employers in Novato have no incentive to hire legal American citizens, and the job market has been usurped by illegal aliens. We need to do something to correct this measure. Second, we have the problem with housing. ABAG intends to impose upon Novato quotas in excess of our fair share. We already have either 20% of the population and 33% of the low-income housing, or we have 30% of the population and 50% of the low-income housing. Regardless of how you compute it, we still have more than our share already. I believe that we need to make sure that ABAG fails to impose any unjust additional quotas upon us. In addition, the low-income housing that is currently in Novato needs to be held accountable. We have Windover Fairfield, which is one of the crime centers of Novato, despite what artificial statistics there are. It is a crime center, and they have not been managing their property. If a tax-exempt property is incurring more public services than its share, we need to make sure that they have their tax-exempt status removed so that they start paying for the city services they're using. And the third is crime. December 1st, we had 4 illegal alien drug gangs in Novato. We now have 6. The first and primary mission is to eradicate the graffiti, and this has been being done by the citizens, and I very much appreciate that effort. We need to have a police program that says that we will have crime control in this area. I've published a program. It's available all around town or on my website, www.electjerome.com.
Madeline Kellner.
Good evening. My name is Madeline Kellner, and I've been on the Novato City Council for 4 years, this year serving as mayor. The goals that I set out to accomplish the last 4 years, or for these 4 years, are very similar to the ones that I think we need to work on for the next. The first is our budget. We were hit with the 2007-2008 economic crisis. We rose to the occasion. We worked very hard on our budget. We made the reductions we needed to while still preserving vital services such as public safety, our senior services, and making sure that we were able to meet the basic needs of our city. Another area that we've been faced with is crumbling infrastructure, and we've begun to make some inroads on that. Our city offices downtown we had to abandon in 2005. We had to move into rented space over near Vintage Oaks, and we've just made a decision now to build offices downtown, save $650,000, and really create a campus downtown that includes our already renovated City Hall and our police station and now city offices. The third area that we need to continue to work on is our downtown and revitalizing our downtown. We've started work on that. We have very close to getting going on reopening our Novato Theater. We're working on the whole area that we call our North Redwood Corridor. We're going to be restarting that work in the January of this next year so that we can create services right here in Novato that people now are leaving town for. So there's plenty more to do. I'm very eager to serve another 4 years, be honored to have your vote for those 4 years. I think I bring a reasoned approach. I do my homework. I really look at making decisions that are of interest to the entire city. So I look forward to speaking more about those issues this evening.
Eric Lucan.
Well, thank you and good evening. I'd first like to start off by thanking the League of Women Voters and Seroptimus International for putting together this forum. My name is Eric Lucan. I'm running for the Novato City Council, and I want to start off by telling you just a little bit about myself and then why I'm running for the City Council. I was born and raised right here in Novato, and I'm proud to say that I'm a product of the public school system, having graduated from Novato High School. I went on to earn my college degree as well as my Master's of Business Administration degree from Georgia State University before moving back home and starting my career in marketing. I have years of experience as a small business consultant as well as a marketing manager for a large restaurant franchise. And today I work for Kimpton Hotels in San Francisco, directing many of their loyalty marketing campaigns. My wife Kylie is also from Novato, and when we decided to settle down and buy our first home, the choice was easy. We chose Novato because we just loved it here so much. Over the years, I've been very involved in the community. Currently, I serve on the Novato Parks and Recreation Commission. I've also volunteered with the Novato Police Department. I was a board member for the Marin School of the Arts. I was also on the Novato Financing Authority and also acted as a youth director and coached youth soccer and youth volleyball right here in Novato. Why am I running for City Council? Well, I think it's time for a new perspective and renewed energy at our City Hall. I have a passion for this community. I benefited so much from growing up here, and I want to continue to help shape our community into the future. My three main priorities are developing a financially sustainable budget that will ensure Novato's long-term viability, improving our public safety levels to provide the protection our residents deserve, and repairing our infrastructure, public facilities, and parks through pragmatic, sound fiscal decision-making. Right now, I think we need leaders who will take on the tough issues that our community is facing. We have a community here in Novato unlike anywhere else in Marin, and I want to be a part of shaping that well into the future. Thank you.
Jean McLamey.
Yes, good evening. I've been honored to serve on the Novato City Council for 2 terms, and including 2 years as mayor. Novato has been my home and the location for my architectural practice for 27 years. I really enjoy listening and working with people to find good solutions and then getting things accomplished. I'm running for another term as more needs to be accomplished on what I believe are our 3 overarching goals for a safe, vibrant, sustainable Novato, and that's fiscal, facilities, and land use. Fiscally, we must get to a sustainable budget. The problem is we've had many state takeaways, declining revenues, and rising pension costs. What we've done is set up long-term reserves, major budget cuts with the lease to police, negotiated pension reform, and passed temporary sales tax measure. Going forward, we need to review our pension system and total compensation, provide services more efficiently, and develop long-term strategy for fiscal management and sustainability. Facilities, we've had an infrastructure, we need an infrastructure that's well-maintained and appropriate. For over 30 years, we've had declining and deteriorating buildings because they've been poorly maintained. We've restored our historic City Hall, and we've restarted the revitalization of our downtown Civic Center. What we must do is stop the outflow of ongoing lease payments and use one-time dollars for a permanent home, and we need to repurpose existing properties and partner to restore our theater and community house. Land use, we need a balance between the environment, neighborhood, and housing choices and economic development. Our zoning and land use is often in conflict with our neighborhoods. And what I've advocated is scattering low-income housing for our inclusionary housing ordinances. And we've proposed a suburban, lower-density housing solution that meets the state mandates and has the least impact on neighbors, but encourages senior housing. Going forward, we must collaborate with others and designate Novato as a suburban density. Thank you.
Leslie Peterson Schwartz.
Good evening. I have lived in Novato for almost 20 years. I have served in an elected capacity for 12 of those years. I know and love our community. Since announcing my candidacy in August, I've talked to hundreds of residents, including families with kids in school, business owners, and senior citizens. There's one consistent theme when I talk to people. They're frustrated, feel that no one is listening to them, and nothing gets done. In many cases, they have come to believe that there's nothing they can do to change things for the better. I tell them I disagree. We can make things better in Novato. The tagline for my campaign is fighting for Novato's future with leadership and experience. That is not to imply that we are fighting amongst ourselves. The fight Novato is facing is that of regional and state government decisions that eliminate our ability to do what we know is best for Novato. Serving on the school board for 12 years afforded me the opportunity to also serve in the state-level capacity as the chair for the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing from 2005 to 2007. That experience taught me how to navigate the halls of the state capitol and how to work with the various state government departments. I believe that we can control Novato's destiny, but we have to be smart about it. We cannot wait for the state to send us mandates. It puts us in a reactive and defensive position. We need to be proactive about our destiny through thoughtful, long-range decision-making. In the past 2 candidate forums, we've discussed the issues around our current problems of budget gaps, how to stimulate local business, pension reform, just to name a few. What we're not discussing is the big picture topics which will forever impact our current problems. I want to change that. I want to make the City Council proactive instead of reactive. I have a proven track record of leadership and experience to do just that. Thank you.
Eleanor Sleuth.
Good evening. Eleanor Sleuth, almost 20 years here in Novato, and I really care about Novato. And it's because when I moved here, after about 1 year, actually it was a little bit later, I was on the California grand jury, civil grand jury here in Marin, which taught me a lot about Marin government. From there, I went to the Environmental Forum, and then I took green building courses up at Sonoma, and I am a mother, a grandmother, so I want to prepare for the future. And that's why I'm running. In these challenging times, the most pressing issue, after looking at everything with the budget and with the people, the economics and the environment, Novato needs viable plans. And that is the same thing that people throughout the United States, as they're going to their city councils and asking for plans, better planning. We need these plans for safety, appropriate housing, and attracting new businesses. We need community involvement in deciding our capital improvement projects, such as city offices downtown, which are costing $12 to $15 million, and people are objecting to that. We need the historic buildings and the parking lots plans, because people are objecting that that isn't getting done. We have budgetary issues, of course, and this is leading to community dissension. My aim is to bring our businesses, our community, our city together and show leadership so that we can benefit from each other's unique strengths. People want security and safety. The residents want adequate capital improvements. Residents want adequate plan for fees, development, housing, and transportation. Thank you.
And now for the questions. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer. The first question comes from Brent, and the first to answer will be Madeline.
Thanks very much. I'd like to start with a favorite subject, affordable housing. We in Novato went through about a year-long process of addressing the housing element with the general plan update. It was pretty painful for a lot of folks to go through that, and a lot of angst was created. But it got worked out in the end, but there is going to be another housing element to make sometime in the next few years. And I wanted to ask you about what Novato learned going through that process, what the council learned, what the city staff learned, but also what ought to be done differently the next time around.
Well, you can bet that we've thought a lot about that. I think the big difference this time than from 2003, when we had the last housing element, was that the rules had changed. And this time we had to come up with zoning. We had to actually identify sites, which we did not have to do last time. So hindsight being 2020, I think what would have been really important was something that I learned the other day in talking to the San Rafael staff and how they approached theirs. And that would have been to really work ahead of time to work with the community and let them know what was going to be happening, and then to really go through a more elaborate process with the community before we identified sites. The minute we identified sites, it was as if we had started little bonfires, and then when we came up with more sites, we just started more fires. And I think we learned that we should have been a lot more proactive ahead of time and recognized that the law had changed, that the process needed to be different, and that because people weren't awake the last time, it was because the rules were different. So I think we learned a lot, and we'll be using that information for the future.
I absolutely think that we learned a lot during this past process. The end result, I think, worked out. The process to get there certainly could have used some improvement. I think when it comes to this issue, it's very important that we are engaged in the community, one, that we're hearing from the community, but we're also providing continued education to the community about the topic, because it is a very complex, always changing topic. But with regards to talking to the community, I heard this great analogy that I've shared before, is that it was an analogy of two individuals fighting over an orange. They both wanted the orange, and they couldn't figure out what to do, so a mediator came in and just split the orange in half and gave a half to either side. It didn't make either person happy, because when they found out, one individual just wanted the juice from the orange and the other person just wanted the peel from the orange. So if they had talked to the individuals ahead of time and brought everybody to the table and really understood the needs of the individuals, they could have satisfied everybody's needs. Now, if only affordable housing was that easy. We know it's not, but I think that we can learn a lot by bringing everybody together from the beginning so that we have a great solution in the end.
Jean.
Thank you. Affordable housing is really a land use issue, and our current land use and zoning have often been in conflict with our neighborhoods. This time, because the state was specific, required us to be specific as to what parcels would be allocated for affordable housing if a developer came forward, we ended up with little firestorms in each neighborhood rather than in one neighborhood at a time, like we often have when there is a new development. I think there needed to be more public input earlier on. I think the working group did a great job with the information they had. But in the end, I collaborated with another council member and worked out a way so that we'd have the affordable housing numbers we had would have the least impact on neighborhoods, more chance for senior housing, and then meeting the state mandated numbers, but with the suburban density going forward. I think we need to be proactive to get our numbers where they need to be with ABAG. We need to work collaboratively with other cities so that we don't have a one-size-fits-all, and neighborhoods need to be proactive if they have large parcels in their neighborhood.
Leslie.
If the city council last year had set the density at 20, instead of allowing the staff to go forward with the 30 units per acre minimum default density with bonus attached on top of that, no one in the community would have been at any meeting. So the good news is, since that didn't happen, we were there. And there are many, many hundreds of people who are awake at this point. The people who are awake still have unanswered questions from Housing and Community Development, as well as ABAG, that have been sitting out there in the air since October. Those questions must be answered before anything is done going forward. You can have the community meet all day long. You can drown us with paper or try to, like was attempted this past year. But at the end of the day, the questions the community had, which were at this point advanced, very, very sophisticated questions, were never answered by the very people who are directing what we have to do. We just turn into being the messenger. Thank you.
Eleanor.
The affordable housing is going to continue. It has, it's always an issue of where do you place people who need employment, people who need housing. And it's that jobs housing balance. Our city has been inept because of the lack of planning, a viable plan for the housing. And part of the reason is the statistics from ABAG go way back to 1997, and then they put those statistics into a 2000 plan to give us some numbers. And because we have a different time now economically. Those numbers need to be revised. What I want is to bring the community, the businesses, and the city staff together, show leadership on how we can figure out moving forward for the future of this town.
Jerome.
Affordable housing is a euphemism for low-income, high-density welfare housing. I don't know why none of the other candidates has not addressed that. What we're dealing with right now are mandates that are being shoved down our throat by Sacramento, and I hold the city council liable for the fact that they've accepted these mandates from Sacramento rather than revolting against them. We already have more than our share of low-income, high-density housing. The chairman of the committee in Sacramento that is in charge of this matter is Assemblywoman Torres of Pomona, where there's 150,000 people. She insisted to our Assemblyman Huffman that Novato should be treated just like Pomona. She wants cookie-cutter cities throughout California that are identical to Pomona. We have a unique identity and community values in Novato, and I seek to preserve that.
Eric will be the first to answer the next question, which will come from Rob.
Thank you very much. As the saying goes, everybody talks about the budget, but what are you going to do about it? Will you be coming to voters asking for renewal of Measure F, or do you have some other plans in mind to balance the budget?
Thank you. No, I will not be coming to voters to ask to extend Measure F. I think it was laid out from the beginning that would be 5 years to get us through the difficult budget time that we're in. We're facing a $2.5 million structural budget deficit. I think we need to continue to look at any and all options available. The one that's going to take the biggest chunk out of that $2.5 million would be to consider placing city offices somewhere other than downtown. I know that it's said that that will save $650,000 a year, but it's going to cost up to $200,000 to manage that building. Now you're only looking at a $440,000 savings on what could be up to a $15 million investment. Works out to be about a 2.9% return on your investment. And when you've got a $2.5 million budget deficit, that's not a project I can support. So that's one thing that we can do. I think we need to continue to look at ways that we can boost sales tax, property tax, maybe bring a hotel into the city that generates transient occupancy tax, which goes straight into the general fund. Beyond that, we need to continue to look at pensions and our pension liabilities there, and also consider selling or leasing downtown parcels.
Jean.
Yes. Novato is a limited income city, but and we have had state takeaways and so forth that continue on. What we need to do going forward is make, first of all, good use of the $3 million a year for Measure F, but it will sunset. That's what the voters said they would tolerate. And we have to get our fiscal house in order within that time. Our problem is that we have a $2.5 million structural deficit ongoing for the next 5 years, and unless we use that one-time money wisely to stop the outflow of ongoing dollars, we're still going to have a major problem in year 6. So we do need to have more pension reform. The pension system is unsustainable. We are looking at reviewing of our entire pension system, as well as our full compensation package, and we need to scrutinize that. And as our compensation is 80% of our budget, we need to improve technology and deliver better services with less. Thank you.
Leslie.
Trying to renew Measure F would be problematic, in my opinion. If we can still have examples of 10 staff members watching 34 volunteers learn how to be graffiti abaters, I think there's still room to figure out how we can be more efficient and work smarter. Thank you.
Eleanor.
Definitely, we're going to have a problem with the budget. Every year, this budget is balanced as required by the state. But it's that structural $23 million that are needed after the 5 years are up. And that continues to be a problem. So how do we do this? We have to encourage our businesses again, and the residents and the staff to work together. And I want to show leadership to get a viable plan. We have 4 years to do this plan and then to make it work.
Jerome?
We have had what the national commentators say is a double dip recession. It may very well be a depression. The last depression in the 1930s lasted for a decade before we came out of it. The tax revenue shortfall in Novato is directly a result of that. The current city council did a very good job in reducing staff requirements by 20%. I took the pledge to control pensions. I'm the only person on this panel that I know who did take that pledge, and one of the candidates here gave a 3-minute speech about how she did not understand the pledge about pension reduction. Proposition F promised us more police. The first 4 items in the text of Proposition F were more police, but we only got 1/2 of a police officer out of Proposition F. I would not anticipate renewing Proposition F. We need to grow our jobs, and the more tax-paying legal citizens we have working in Novato, the more revenue we will have.
Madeline?
We looked at Measure F as really a bridge to get us through the next 5 years, knowing that we needed to do some planning, working closely with our staff and also with the public to identify what are the vital services that people want and what can we afford. And we need to continue to do that, and we're starting to do that later this month. We have more work to do. We started pension reform efforts. We have more to do on that. We need to look at the Measure F monies as really a way to do some one-time things that will reduce our long-term liability, not to buy things that then we'll have to find more money for in 5 years' time. We are going to have some RDA money, that's redevelopment money, not a lot, but I think enough so that we can leverage that and work with private partners to bring in economic vitality to our city. So we have lots more to do on this. We're not looking at F as a panacea, but it certainly was a wonderful thing that our residents voted for it in order to give us a little more time to do the planning that we need to.
Jean will be the first to answer the next question, which will come from Brent.
I believe it's in next month when the City Council will begin to address the North Redwood Corridor development. So I'd like to see how you feel about that. It was a process that got put on hold because of the affordable housing issue that came up last summer. Progress had been made with that North Redwood Corridor long-term plan. It's going to be brought before the council once again, and I just wanted to see what what are your thoughts right now, and where it is on the priority list. Thank you.
Excuse me. We know that we can't develop our way out of our financial problem, but North Redwood Corridor is, I would say, a blighted area, a lot of it, and it will be vital to our downtown to do something really positive. I think the North Redwood Corridor area would benefit from some real experts that actually do design and planning, site planning, if we bring them on board to supplement and the current planning that's been done by the working group. It's now time to set the stage of how we want Redwood Boulevard to look, the setbacks from Redwood, 2- or 3-story buildings, and how we handle parking, much like the city of Paris, where they set the stage and then anything can happen within the parameters of the type of development that the city would like.
Well, whatever we do with North Redwood Corridor, we cannot continue to have the same attitude about build and then worry about the housing afterward. Because this, going forward, our biggest concern has to be SB 375, which is the land use bill that's attached to the Clean Air Act, which will say that if you bring low-paying jobs, you must have housing attached to it. Not literally in the building, but you have to take responsibility for what you do. So this will be our first chance at having a new way of growing in the 21st century. At this point, if we apply old 20th century habits on how we develop, we are not going to be looking out for what we need to do, again, to be proactive toward the future, because if we just build Redwood Corridor and don't look at what's happened to Grant Avenue in Old Town, we may be just switching over where people go. But structurally, it's a highway. It was an old highway. And so it's not walkable and not friendly in that way. And whoever we use, I hope we use local people to make the decisions.
Eleanor.
I would go both ways. First, to have the local people, as Leslie was saying, but coordinate that with the businesses and with the city staff. 3 people, 3 groups have to work together. On top of that, I would really investigate having the American Institute of Architects can do an analysis, not only a design for the land analysis, but for the economics, so that whatever happens on Redwood Corridor, it fits the vision. I think you have to keep going back to the vision of the small town. Do I have any more time? Oh, I do. I keep talking. Okay. One strategy for the downtown is to have to attract young, innovative companies. We need those kind with high ethical and environmental standards. We need to offer tax incentives, and we need to offer expedited and easy permitting for these companies.
Jerome.
North Redwood Corridor is secondary to our revitalization of Grant Avenue. Currently, the city gives approximately $100,000 a year to the Chamber of Commerce to promote and market Novato. I think that money should be divided up among other groups with other plans. North Redwood Corridor is a good site for business, retail, and light commercial development. I would prefer that we kept 2-story buildings and not 3, with the exception of possibly hospitals. And that's the way that we can grow that area.
Madeline.
I think we have a real opportunity on North Redwood Corridor to design something that really creates a sense of place. I don't think what we're looking for here is another place where people can drive by and drive in and out. I think we're really looking for a park-like setting, a place where people can walk, a way that we can connect it to our downtown. Some of the highlights out of that Hamilton project I've heard people say is there's a place to sit, a place to hang out. They like that. There's a sense of vitality there. I think we have an opportunity to bring in services and unique stores that will attract not only Novato residents, but people off of 101 to come in to our town on their way to work or on their way home. We have the opportunity to use some of our redevelopment money to do some of this planning, and we clearly need to do something around North Redwood Boulevard, which has been noted was really the old 101, and how do we make it inviting, and how do we make it something that's going to work for us. We've started some work on this last year. We need to build on it, and in December we're going to be talking about what the process is for restarting that work.
Eric.
Yes, I'm very interested in the possibilities we have with the North Redwood Corridor. In Novato, we have only 5% of our land zoned for commercial compared to 11 and 17% of Petaluma and San Rafael. So that being said, we need to be very careful how we utilize this area. We can't afford to mess it up. And also, we know that we do need sales tax in Novato. However, we can't let the need for sales tax to dictate the decisions we make with North Redwood Corridor either. We need to make smart decisions. We need to hear from our community. We need to hear from the residents. And we also need to make sure that whatever we do, it's not going to just deter all the sales from downtown. It needs to fit and work within downtown as a whole, having a connection between the two. We don't want to just pick up and leave downtown and move to a new location. I'm also just very excited about some of the possibilities at that site. Creating somewhat of a lifestyle center. One thing that I think would be great there would be an indoor soccer complex that you can put not necessarily on the frontage, but it gives a place where parents can drop off their kids and they can go and shop. So lots of possibilities.
Okay. Leslie will be the first to answer the next question, which will come from Rob.
Thank you very much. We've talked about some of the things that Brent and I have concerns about, but what is the biggest concern you have, if you could address something right away, the thing that keeps you up at night worrying about the city?
The thing that keeps me up at night is trying to figure out how we wrestle with state and regional decisions that we don't seem to have any control over, which are done through organizations that are structured where we send a representative or not, and therefore lose the accountability back to our group as a whole in how we look at things. So we have a representative at Association of Bay Area Governments, we have a representative at the Transportation Authority of Marin, we have representatives all over the place, but we lose our ability to have the true local input about this and decision-making because it's been taken away and put into a regional setting. And I think it's going to be harder and harder to keep our local control going forward because it's quite obvious that Sacramento is doing its darn well best to make sure that the ability to handle it right here in your hometown is harder for you. So that's what keeps me up at night.
Eleanor.
I have to agree with Leslie. It is the lack of local control. I keep going over this, and it's like not only us, but throughout many cities in the United States feel that the federal government, the state government, even the county has constraints on what we do in Novato. One of the things is to require us to have zoning changes. Well, we didn't move here to get zoning changes. People moved here for the small town atmosphere. And that's been our vision. We're a rural community, and that needs to be respected by the developers, by the federal government, by the state government, and by the county, and the ABAG, and the Transportation Authority. It's that respect that needs to happen for Novato because we are unique. We have this unique vision of 2 to 3 stories, of having affordable housing that fits within our neighborhoods.
Okay. Jerome.
3 years I came before the city council and addressed the rising crime in Novato, and the city council was mute about that. 2 years ago, I came before the city council and I said that there is rising illegal alien crime, and I promised the city and its residents gunfire in the streets. And the city was silent about that and laughed at me behind their backs. As of January of this year, we had the attempted double murder out at Safeway Hamilton, and more recently we've had gunfire between cars and entering homes on Elm Drive, a block off of Grant Avenue. If we don't do something about illegal alien crime, it's going to overtake us. I certainly hope that the citizens of Novato do not wait until they themselves are victims of crime before they recognize it.
Madeline.
I think it's really simple. I think we just need to make sure that we have the resources here to keep this town a very vital place and a very safe place. When I walk neighborhoods, that's what people want. They love it here. They want to keep it a beautiful place with a high quality of life and a safe place to live. I think the other thing that keeps me awake is the need to make sure that our businesses can thrive and survive here. Our businesses on Grant, our other businesses that are startup, keeping the the biotech industries here and making sure that they have what they need to thrive in our city, making sure that we have jobs. The more we can create jobs here, the less we're all on 101 going north or south. So I think those are the real basics, and I think there's plenty for us to be working on in those arenas in the next years to come.
Eric?
There's many issues from the budget, the local economy, but I'll go a slightly different route. One thing that bothers me and keeps me awake at night, having been a youth director in this community for so many years, is the amount of drug and alcohol use amongst our teenagers. And that's one thing I would hope to be able to provide some input on and ways that we can continue to combat that. If you look at the statistics, many know that Novato and Marin as a whole has a higher reported binge drinking rate amongst our teenagers. And I think there are things that we can do from a city level to address that. I think we've already started to address it some. I think we can look at a diversion program for teenagers instead of just going right into the juvenile court system, or ways that that some of those things could be taken off the record if they meet with police officers. So I'm interested in exploring all of those ways, because we all have been impacted by some of the tragedies we've experienced in this community, and that's something I would hope to address and find a resolution for.
Jean?
Yes, all good comments from everybody. I think we all have a big case of insomnia here. One of the biggest concerns, besides the fiscal facilities and land use, is the dysfunction of the state. They're broke, and yet they are continuing to take our dollars. They're continuing to take our land use control, and I say, how dare they? Because they don't have their own house in order. It diminishes what we can do effectively as a city. I think greater government regulation is stifling our economy as well. It's keeping new companies from coming here. Development is difficult, even for a single-family home or second units, if we want to count those for affordable housing. The fees are just astronomical. So we need to get government out of the way and allow people to do things in a much more simple manner. And I think Eric hit on it too. One of the things we've kept our eye off the ball is our underage drinking and drug problems. That's critical.
This will be our last question. Eleanor will be the first to answer it, and it will come from Brent.
In 2007, the city had to make some devastating budget cuts. And as I recall, the department that was devastated the most was Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. There are not nearly as many offerings for kids and seniors as there used to be. If the city were to head in the same direction with being forced to make more budget cuts because of the economy, how would you feel about the parks department, suffering more of a burden there, or would you try to divert it into a different direction?
I think. Okay. Yeah, it's serious business. The whole financial burden on the town and the businesses, and Parks and Recs are vital for the seniors. I fully support the seniors. I don't see how much less they can do. I support the teen center. I don't see what they can do less. And the gymnastics center, all the Park and Rec has been really been given less and are taken away quite a bit. So how do we solve that? Again, we have to come up with a plan. We have 4 years to say what other areas can we subtract money from, and how can we do with less and still have a vision for Novato.
Jerome.
Parks and Recreation is neither exempt nor a target for budget reductions. Budget reductions should be considered on a case-by-case basis and across the board. There are many things we need to do. One of the things we do more of is to seek grants, because grants can do some supplementing of our budget without increasing the tax load.
Madeline.
We did a lot last time, and you're right, Park and Recreation did take some major cuts. They also had a lot of the subsidy from the general fund. But we were amazed at the amount of cooperation we got from many of the groups impacted by these services. The gymnastics group stepped forward and raised a lot of money, became almost self-sufficient. The senior club stepped up to the plate. Those that are using our fields, the different sports groups have stepped up now, and they're offering to help maintain the fields. The dog park people also stepped up to the plate to help. The Historical Guild has helped with the museums. One of the areas that I think is also going on in the community is fundraising for scholarships so that kids that want to take part in some of these activities can. I think that of all the things that went on over the last 4 years in terms of our budgets, this is really where I think Novato shows its true colors in its willingness to step up and help and be part of the solution.
Eric.
Yeah, as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, it was very heart-wrenching to make those cuts, but I did support them at the time because I did feel where we were at that Parks and Rec needed to be more cost-covering, and we needed to preserve the police department as much as we could. I think moving forward, we probably would not make those cuts in the same proportion, but I think Parks and Rec is making incredible headway towards moving towards being fully cost recovering. And I think we just need to think of smarter ways to do things. One thing that I've been advocating for Parks and Rec for a number of years is to consider more synthetic turf fields throughout the community. You do something like that and you get significant water rebates. You also cut down on maintenance expense and you increase your revenue. Petaluma has a synthetic turf field and they rent it out 363 days out of the year. So I think things like that are ways that we can actually save money but provide an added benefit to the community. So I think those are ways that we need to continue to look and just think differently about how are we going to fund this department, because we do have an incredible Parks and Recreation department here in Novato.
Jean.
Yes, thank you. Well, of course, public safety and public works are kind of the core responsibilities of our city, and Park and Rec is really the heart and soul. That's what helps us provide really wholesome activities for youth and families. We've had an incredible stepping forward of youth and families and other volunteers to help maintain the programs we do have. I would hate to see further budget cuts in the Park and Rec department. I think we have to continue to develop partnerships with others. I think we need a stronger volunteer corps. I think people need to realize that they need to be more self-reliant and not so reliant on government. But there's certainly a role for government to help spur some of the programs that do make and create a vibrant community like Novato is. We are a real town, and we want to, part of that is because of the strength of our Park and Rec department. Thank you.
Leslie.
I think Parks and Rec has suffered enough. I don't know how you can, at some point you're down to such a skeletal situation that it's not going to be something that's going to be able to work. I love that everybody's talking about volunteerism, and I would just hope that in the spirit of government getting out of people's way, instead of having them do things like set up an ordinance for graffiti abatement where they never even talked to the people who are actually out there with the paint roller, we could get our act together and sit down with the people who are really volunteering and ask them, how do they think they would handle it? Because at the end of the day, that missed opportunity is exemplified through what just happened with the graffiti abatement ordinance, because the one man who's single-handedly doing this with his friends, that, retired gentlemen, wasn't even consulted. And he's the one who can tell you how to make it efficient, and instead we have an 11-page ordinance. Thank you.
And that concludes the questions. Before the closing statements, I want to give you some important dates. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. The last day to register or re-registered, if you've moved since you last voted, is October 24th, 2 weeks before the election. Requests for absentee ballots must be received by the Elections Department by November 1st, 1 week before the election. Early voting opens at the Civic Center, room 121, on October 10th. If you go to the League smartvoter.org website and enter your street address and zip code, you'll be able to see your own ballot, with links to candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. And now the candidates will make closing statements of 1 minute each. Reversing our order of opening statements, we'll begin with Eleanor Sluice.
Again, I'm Eleanor Sluice, and I'm really glad to be here. And I look forward to be a leader on the council and bring people together. And Novato needs to bloom and grow. Otherwise, we're going to be with like packed sardines. So we have choices. Packed sardines, bloom and grow. And it's that kind of leadership that I will bring, because I've been a teacher, I've been involved with other groups, and I love Novato. So I'm willing to provide that for the three sectors: the community again, the businesses, and the city staff. We all need to work together as a team. I'm ready. If I had a helmet, I'd put on my helmet and tackle the problems, because they're going to be ongoing, and we need to be really a thriving town. And again, to keep up the vision. It's a small town vision, and that has to come first. Thank you. Vote for me.
Leslie Peterson-Schwartz.
I've lived all over the country. Novato is my favorite place to live. I love that even though this is a town of 50,000 people, everyone knows everyone through their various activities. What I love most is that Novato is a town that is involved. Someone once contrasted us to the rest of Marin by saying, in southern Marin, when faced with a problem, they pick up a cocktail, and in Novato, they pick up a shovel. Instead of cowering at the onslaught of criticism about our civic behavior, I am incredibly proud of our community's ability to analyze problems, speak up about injustices, and then come up with solutions. I've chosen to run my campaign as a true grassroots effort. I do not have a professional political consultant. I have refused endorsements from organizations and any elected officials in order to stay true to my grassroots philosophy. My campaign is not about liberal or conservative, Republican or Democrat. My campaign is about awake or asleep. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Jean McClamey.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Seroptimus Club International, and also Brent and Rob for your participation, helping the viewing public understand some of the vital issues facing Novato and how the candidates might tackle these issues. I want to thank the candidates for sticking to the issues, and I want to thank the viewers and voters for listening and making your vote count, and above all, staying engaged in the process as we go along in these difficult and challenging years. I have come to love Novato after living here 27 years. I've found it's made up of people of great courage and strength, wonderful families, and folks that want to keep this to be a really vital, engaged, vibrant town. I would like to continue to participate as a council member. I serve at the pleasure of the public, and would be pleased to continue, and I thank you for your support.
Eric Lucan.
Well, thank you. I'd first like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters, as well as Seroptimus International, Judy, Brent, Rob for your work, and also for all those that are watching at home or watching online. Thank you for tuning in. Right now, I think that we need leaders who will take on the tough issues facing our city. I have a strong business background that will help us address our budget and the decision we need to make moving forward. I'll work tirelessly to revive Novato's image and bring the vibrancy we need back to our downtown. Most importantly, I'll always listen to our residents, and you'll find I'm very easy to get a hold of. I encourage you to visit my website for more information. It's www.ericlucan.com. You could send a message there. You could contact me there, and I would be honored to represent you. I've already been endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce and the North Bay Leadership Council, as well as current council members Carol Dillon-Knudsen and Denise Athis, and I would be honored to have your vote. So please vote by mail or on November 8th. Thank you.
Madeline Kellner.
I have really enjoyed these last 4 years being a public servant, working very closely with the community and with the staff and with my fellow council members. The work is not done. There's more to do. Certainly around our fiscal health, all of our buildings and our infrastructure needs that need to be addressed, as well as planning what our future is going to be. And that includes North Woodward Corridor and the downtown and our general plan and our housing needs. All of those things are on our plate, and I believe that I bring the civic experience, the management experience, the experience of 4 years on the council to the job. I really am thoughtful about the decisions I make. I pull in all the information to do that, and I believe in making decisions that are really in the best interest of the entire city and with the long-term view in mind. So I look forward to serving you for another 4 years. Would be very honored to have your vote.
Jerome Gigliotti.
I'd like to refer you to my blog, which is www.electjerome.com. We have, as I've said, 3 major problems. One is jobs. We need to grow jobs in Novato, jobs for legal American citizens and those with the right to work here. The second problem we have is the tax-exempt affordable housing, which is more of a burden than it need be. And the third is crime. The 3 points on which I would like to indict the current city council, the incumbents, are that they have taken Sacramento mandates and shoved them down the throats of the Novato citizens instead of saying, this is Novato. We have community values. We're going to do it our way. Second is they've ignored the citizens. We've had affordable housing problems where 200 and 300 people have shown up at the city council meetings, and they have moderated but failed to meet the demands of the citizens. And third, the council itself has repeatedly failed to obey the law. They make exceptions and make up the laws that go along. They have numerous infractions about the Brown Act and personal confrontations with my rights. Thank you.
And that concludes our debate. Thanks to the candidates for running, to the Seroptimists for sponsoring, to Brent and Rob for their questions, and to Marcia for timekeeping. And thank you for watching.